Hi. Um, this might be a little bit quiet because I have a fan on and I'm not turning it off, so I turned down the microphone. Um, Hi, it's Gabby. Um, my voice is kind of shot because I've been very sick for the last almost 2 months now, and it's one of the many reasons why Sky hasn't happened lately. Um, Besides just, well, I made a couple big posts about it since February, but hey, it's another part. It's really short because it took me, well, it was a half hour worth of audio to squeeze 10 minutes out. So, lots of coughing, and my voice was shot after recording it a few days ago. So I'm going to start doing smaller chunks, but once a week instead of large chunks every month. So just to make sure I can get it out and also to save myself from this. Yeah, outside of that, it's been interesting. Been writing, been working on Dead Again with Max. Yeah, I don't know. I edited a lot of the story, and I'm starting to really find where the characters are, so hopefully people will see that in the upcoming parts, which they're fun. Outside of that, yeah, that's about it. I'll toss a promo or two at the end, and still thinking about that Patreon, which I'm not gonna even attempt to do until I have like a regular schedule of things and I don't take 3 or 4 months in between each part. Sorry about that. Anyway, hope everybody's doing well, and I'll see you soon.
Things had stayed fairly normal for the weeks after her first night meeting Rose. Grace fell into a new routine of drinking with her friends and watching Rose perform each night after work. She finished the brunt of the work on Lenora during the day and had even started helping some of the other pilots with their gunships. The sudden blaring of sirens startled Grace, and she sat up, cracking her forehead into Lenora's frame. Ow, ow, ow! Fee, what the fuck's going on? The captain dug her phone, which was now beeping and vibrating in an almost constant tone, and answered it. Yeah? Where? How many? Track them. Don't shoot unless you have to. Injured? Yeah. Get Doc on standby. No. What did I just say? Get going. She tossed the device into her pocket and reached down for Grace, pulling her up. Gonna need you up in the sky, girlie. Nathan spotted a group. Looks like just women coming through the woods. Says there's half a damn platoon behind them. Looks like the Patriots. Grace stared at her blankly for a moment. Wait, what do you need me to do? Pick them up? Fiona looked at the single-person cockpit and raised an eyebrow. No, I need you to strafe the shit out of the soldiers behind them. You won't be alone, don't worry. But Girlie, if they find us and send soldiers in force, we're fucked. I like this place. I don't want to have to move again. Now, she's skyworthy, right? Grace blinked. Yeah, she should be. Girl forced her mind to a pre-flight and started looking Lenora over. Good. Get up there and give 'em hell. Without another word, Fiona rushed out of the room. The girl quickly looked over the ship. Fuel and ammunition were full. Everything looked to be bolted down. She raced to the workshop door and opened it. Even from where she was, she could hear the other fighters firing up. She came back to Lenora and patted her unpainted side. This is it, love. Ready to get back up there? She climbed into the cockpit and sealed it. Taking a deep breath, she punched the startup sequence and waited as the engines roared to life. She closed her eyes and listened to each new rumble and rattle, felt the way the cockpit shook from the new engines, and smiled. Yeah, you're ready, ain't you? The pilot eased on the throttle, letting the ship roll out of the workshop, a tornado of papers and small metal pieces fluttering around her. As soon as she cleared the doorway, she extended the wings and punched the throttle. An almost deafening boom came from behind her, and the ship shot forward, slamming Grace back into her seat. Within seconds, she was lifted off the concrete into the sky. Holy shit, Lenora. Go easy, girl. It's my first time. Grace howled as she streaked across the sky, Lenora trying hard to catch up with the fighters that had already taken off. Run, run. Run! Run! Her mother screamed as the sound of a truck engine, unintelligible shouting, and the sharp bark of a hound came from behind them again. Twice they'd been found since they'd escaped, and twice they'd gotten away. By now, Emily was no stranger to death, killing 3 soldiers herself, but she knew there was no fighting this time. There's so many. Why are there so many? Emily wished she could speak, tell the idiot girl that they had wanted revenge for the men they'd killed, or their playthings back, or whatever other reason they could think up. Instead, she just kept running. Grace eased back on the throttle as she caught up with the others. A hiss of static filled her cockpit before it was replaced with a woman's voice, one she instantly recognized. Skim the trees. Let's see if we can shake 'em up a bit first. Get 'em off the ladies' backs before we take 'em apart. The redhead toggled the radio. Quinn, is that you? Chat later. Approaching targets in 3, 2, 1. Let's hit 'em. Anything else that Quinn might have said was drowned out by the other 3 fighters opening fire. Chain gun fire tore into the trees around the soldiers, sending splinters of wood, leaves, viscera, and bone into a cloud. The front 3 ships turned in unison, Grace doing her best to keep up. As they rolled around to line up another shot, she warmed the secondary weapons and prepared to fire for the first time. She took a deep breath as they lined up, hesitating for a moment before pulling the trigger. It was in that second a million things went through her mind. The men that she was about to gun down probably had families, children, lives outside of this specific moment. They probably had friends and pets and hobbies. When she'd fired, she'd be ending all of that for anyone she hit. She'd be ending a life. Then she saw one of the running women take a bullet to her back and without a second pulled the trigger. Emily made a half-audible grunt, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide as she watched her mother slam into the ground, blood soaking into the brown, rotting leaves. She tripped and fell, scrambling to her mother's side, pulling her up and cradling her. Again, she heard the roar above her. This time she watched as a rain of metal ripped the remaining soldiers apart. The other 2 women stopped next to her, one holding her arm that hung strangely at her side, the other gasping, staring down at her and her mother's corpse. The 3 watched as the men who still could ran, crawled, or pulled themselves back towards the safety of the trucks, only to be shredded as the airships blew by again. Emily looked up towards them as they just as suddenly banked and sped off north of them as quickly as they'd come. After a few moments of silence, punctuated by the occasional moan or cry of a soldier unlucky enough to be alive, Emily tapped each woman on the shoulder and pointed north. They stared at her for a moment, each looking at her mother in turn, then nodded. After they were out of sight, the woman gently laid her mother's body on the ground and stood, drawing her revolver. She checked the cylinder as she slowly walked towards the sea of blood and dirt, listening for the faintest sounds of life from any of the bodies on the ground. 4 gunships screeched and skidded to a halt as they landed, taxiing to park next to each other as Fiona ran towards them. All clear? Before Grace could speak, Quinn shouted, Clear. 3 of the 4 are alive. They'll need help getting here. Look to be barely standing as it is. Might need to send cleanup as well, but shouldn't be too many left. Captain nodded and called someone on her phone. Send 2 trucks. Take Doc with you. Yes. The fuck did I just say? Then get someone who has a fucking gun. I don't care. All right. She hung up, rolling her eyes. Fucking doctors and their pacifist bullshit. You 4 need to be up and ready to head back out. Don't know if there's more behind them. As they started to leave, Fiona grabbed Quinn and whispered something to her, looking at Grace as she did. Quinn nodded and jogged to catch up with the others. She stayed close to Grace. Hey, how's it been? Grace gave a small start and squeaked. Fuck. Sorry. Hi. The engineer raised an eyebrow. Scared of me now? What, afraid I'll want to get back at you for those phone calls at 4 a.m. the other day? Violet gave a weak smile. Sorry about that. I think I was, inviting you to come out and drink with us? Quinn brushed her blonde hair from her face as they stepped into the bar. Well, guess we can get that drink now if you want. She looked at the redhead up and down for a moment, giving a slight frown. You okay? Grace shuddered slightly and nodded. Yeah, just fine. Just, first time I've, fought. They sat down in a small booth near the entrance, the other pilots heading towards the back of the bar. Quinn held up a hand to flag a waiter and turned back to Grace. I know. It takes a bit to get used to. Find something else to think about, all right? Grace put her head down on the table, letting out a long, shuddering breath. Do you think they'll be back? Quinn's lean frame hunched slightly. Maybe. That was quite a lot of troops just for a couple people. Could be they're special enough for them to come hunting again. Let's not worry about it for now, alright? Turning her head to the side and laying her cheek on the cold wood table, Grace looked up at the other woman. What's with you? I can ask you 100 questions about the Saki, spend hours trying to get you to come out of the engine room, try to talk to you, and you'll give me one-word answers or just ignore me. And now that we just murdered a few dozen people, you still want to sit in a bar and have small talk? She let out a long sigh and put a hand on Grace's shoulder. I'm sorry, I don't really do well with people, and trust me, I'll be suffering tonight from this little outing. The waiter interrupted her. What can I get for you? The engineer looked up at him for a moment. Tell John the usual for both of us, Grace and Quinn. Keep them coming, all right? All right, I will be back shortly. She gently squeezed the redhead's shoulder. We'll have the required heart-to-heart tonight in the engine room. For now, let's just drink and forget the last hour, all right? Yeah, sure. Flashes of, what could she even call that, a battle? It's more like a slaughter. Flashes of blood and body parts flying through the air, mouths open in pain screams played through her mind. Quinn, I think I'm going to be sick. The sky was painted pink and orange as the sun faded by the time Emily was finished covering her mother's grave. She marked the spot with a small branch and dug into the earth next to the grave, leaving the word rest in the ground. After a few moments, she wiped her eyes on the tattered sleeve and turned north. For the first time since she'd escaped, she felt tired. The torture her body had been through, before and after, finally took its toll. She limped forward, finally feeling a sprained ankle that she had no idea she had sustained. Her right eye was blurred, and each breath felt like a knife driving into her side. Finally, the rage boiled away, and she felt empty, a hollow pit somewhere in her core. She shuddered and shook, fresh tears running down her face. She looked ahead, hoping to see some signs of the two she'd sent, or the source of the airships that saved them, but only saw a forest stretching ahead of her.
The Hunted Sky falls under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike Non-Commercial 3.0 license. For more information, go to creativecommons.org. All music is copyright Kevin MacLeod at Incomtech.com. Check out his stuff, it's free and really great.